Tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, a bit about myself. My name is Brendan Keegan. I'm a senior lecturer in digital marketing in Manchester Metropolitan University Business School. I've been teaching there for a number of years, but I also have a little bit of agency experience from a couple of years ago. So I thought it'd be quite interesting to come and have a chat with you today, just to see about how you guys at Return on Digital do your social, but specifically how you do the reporting function in social, which is what I'm really interested in.
Okay, so can you tell us a bit more about your PhD?
Okay, yes, okay, my PhD. My PhD started about 4 years ago when I came across an academic article which was written by a guy called Chris Phil. I don't know if you know Chris Phil, but he wrote the book on marketing communications, the standard textbook that we use in MMU, and he wrote a small article about viral marketing. Do you remember that big concept? Right, so he tried to write this article about how to evaluate effectively the success of a viral marketing campaign. So I read this thing and I thought it was fascinating that he was trying to figure out, okay, so what factors will make a viral successful? So is it the shock factor? Is it the humor factor? Is it the likability of it? Is it the amount of times it's been shared? Is it the number of hits? And I thought these are interesting. This is the first time that I saw in advertising and marketing that somebody was using KPIs that they were generating themselves, using metrics that were quite new. So I was quite interested in that. So I thought, right, I'll look into this from a research perspective, and then at the time I had decided to go down the PhD route. So I decided I was going to investigate the full range of metrics and KPIs associated with social media marketing. That was my original aim. I soon realised that that was not really a feasible aim, so I had to restructure the PhD to look towards a more feasible topic, for a more feasible task. So what I did was I went out and I started doing some small little interviews, just 20-minute interviews with practitioners, just to say, guys like you, guys and girls like you. So just asking, right, how do you do this thing? How do you report? And if you imagine that about 4 years ago, what we talked about today was very different 4 years ago. So generally I found that guys working with social media, they tended to kind of add the number of followers here and the number of comments here. They kind of put those two things together and call that something called engagement or something called sentiment. So what I noticed was the more and more interviews, I noticed that it was virtually impossible to count all of the metrics and all of the KPIs. What I noticed was the process was more interesting with how practitioners dealing with new technologies like Pinterest and like Vine and Twitter and things which are coming out right now, you guys have to think on your feet. You have to almost come up with and devise a method for measuring this cool, great new stuff that's out there. So with each amazing campaign that comes out, I think, right, well, how did they come up with that idea, but also how do they measure the success? So what my PhD looks for now is I'm looking more at the process of evaluation of social media marketing, but also I'm looking at the process from an agency perspective, but also from a client perspective. Because what I find is that increasingly when I speak to guys who are trying to do social media marketing campaigns, I find that the client involvement is really, really important. I find that if the client is aware of social and they have some understanding, that drives the measurement in a different way. However, if they're completely not aware, that means that it's open to you guys, the experts, to report and to measure success as and how you wish.
That's fantastic.
Okay.
So how did you find Return on Digital's social media measurement?
Okay, how did I find Return on Digital social media measurement? Well, first of all, I think you've got a wonderful knowledge of experience, a wonderful bank of experience. You've got some really knowledgeable people working on your team. You've also got a nice, convenient little corner. Now, I know Social Corner I've heard the legend of before I came here, but I think from a physical point of view, it's important you guys are sitting together. And the one thing that I've just noticed from having a cup of tea outside, you've got the techie guy sitting right beside you who's just described to me this wonderful new bespoke system of measurement that you've built. And I think that you're physically sitting beside each other, that's really important, because you may come up with the great ideas, but the fact that you're engaging with each other physically in an offline sense, I think that's really important as well. During the interview, when we actually had a quick chat, I was quite impressed with the level of awareness you guys have from a research perspective, but also from a quantitative and qualitative perspective. So you're aware of measuring campaigns and activity beyond just numbers. You're measuring beyond counting the number of followers and the number of likes. You're actually looking for engagement, but not just engagement as a throwaway term. You're actually defining these quite well. So I think that's very, very, very complex and very, very progressive, I think is the way to describe it. So in a way, what I'm looking at is a kind of a paradigm, or let's say if you imagine a line between very well technologically developed with massive budgets and then not very well. I think you're sitting definitely more towards this end. But what I'm very interested in is the fact that you've made your own, you've made your bespoke system. I think that's revolutionary. That's very, very, very progressive. So
That's amazing. What a brilliant note to end on. Thanks so much for coming in.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks.